Hi everyone, and welcome back to the geography classroom. I'm so excited to see you all again. I hope you all had an amazing half-term break. I know that I did. I hope you had some time out in the sunshine, enjoying nature in your garden or in the park. And yeah, let's crack on with today's session. So first of all, we're going to go through all the things that we need. Then we're going to do the quiz, and then I'm going to teach you about the last of the global biomes that we were going to study. So what you will need for today's session: your big plain piece of paper, you will need a normal pencil, and you will also need your colouring pencils. Now, it's really important today that you have a yellow colouring pencil, which probably gives you a clue as to which global biome we are going to study. So I'm going to give you a second to go and grab all of your bits, and I'll see you back here in just a second. Okay, so welcome back. Hopefully you've got your pencil, and we're going to write down the numbers 1 to 8 on the back of our big piece of paper. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Okay, so we've got our numbers. Right, are you ready to start the quiz? Now, it's been a little while since we had a lesson, so your brain is going to have to work super hard today to remember all of the things that we have studied. Some of these questions are quite long ones as well, so if you need to pause the video at the end of each question just to give you time to write down the answer, then please feel free to do that. Okay, so question number 1. Can you name the 7 continents that we have studied? So question number 1, name the 7 continents that we have studied. So you need to make sure each starts with a capital letter and see if you can get your spellings correct. Okay, question number 2. So, what is the name of the coldest continent that we have studied? So remember, it had temperatures that went down to almost -50. What is the name of the coldest continent that we have studied? Okay, question number 3. What are the 2 factors that make up climate? So the 2 different things that we're interested in that are happening in the sky, what are the 2 factors that make up climate? Okay, question number 4. What continent would you find Botswana in? So we looked at Botswana. What continent was Botswana in? Okay, question number 5. This is another long one, so if you need to pause it, don't panic. Just pause it after I've said the question. Give yourself time to write down the answer. So, name the 6 global biomes. Now, remember the acronym that we used? The sad dog through the poo. So, what was the name of the 6 global biomes? Okay, question number 6. What is it called, or what's the species called, that can make its own energy using sunlight? So what was the name of the species, or what's the official kind of geographical name for the species that can make its own energy using sunlight? Okay, question number 7. So we have studied endemic species. An endemic species is a type of either plant or animal that only lives or only survives in that location. So can you name 2 of the endemic species that we have studied? Now I'm going to give you 2 clues on this one. The first one is, what colour is my hair? This animal has the same colour. And the second clue, it's pretty gross, is this. So what are the 2 species that we have studied that are endemic to the places that they live? And then question number 8, which of the global biomes do zebras and lions live in? So which of the global biomes do zebras and lions live in? Okay, I'm going to hold the questions up so that you can pause it if you need to catch up on any you've missed. So name the 7 continents. What is the name of the coldest continent? Which 2 factors make up climate? Which continent is Botswana in? And then name the 6 global biomes. What can make its own energy using sunlight? Name 2 endemic species. And which biome do the zebras and lions live in? Okay, pause the video now and I'll come back with the answers. Okay, so we've done the quiz. Let's go through the answers. So question number 1 was to name the continents. So to name the 7 continents. So I've got my map from week 1. Let's go through the answers. So we have North America, South America, Europe and Africa, Asia, Australasia, and then the last one, Antarctica. So they are the 7 continents. Okay, question number 2 was what is the name of the coldest continent in the world? And that you should have written down Antarctica. Okay, question number 3 was which 2 factors make up climate? So that is rainfall and temperature. And question number 4 was what continent is Botswana found in? And that was Africa. So there's the board with the answers. Give yourself a tick for each one that you got correct. Bonus points if you got your spelling correct as well, which I know is not always my strong point. Okay, question number 5 then was to name the 6 global biomes. So the sad dog through the poo. So we have got tropical rainforest, savanna, desert, temperate forest, tundra and polar. Okay, question number 6, what type of species or what can make its own energy using sunlight? So we would call that a producer. If you wrote plant, I will give you that point as well because only plants can do that. They are producers. Okay, question number 7 was to name 2 endemic species and I gave you some clues and the clues were the orangutan, which we studied in Borneo, it's only found in Borneo, and then the marine iguana that can shoot salt out of its nose that we studied and we looked at that at the Galapagos Islands in Ecuador. Okay, last but not least then was what biome are zebras and lions found in, and that is our savanna. So here are your answers for that one. Right, give yourself a tick for everything that you got right. As I say, bonus points for spelling. I'm checking mine this week, although I'm sure I'm probably going to make a mistake, but give yourself a mark out of 8 and I'll see you back here in just a second to start our lesson. Okay, so today's session, we are going to study the last of the global biomes. So we've had a look at a polar biome when we looked at Antarctica. We've had a look at tropical rainforest biome when we went to Borneo. We had a look at the savanna when we visited Botswana. We then had a look at the tundra when we went to Canada. And then we looked at the temperate forest, which is our own biome. So last but not least, and probably one of my favourite biomes, we're going to have a look at the desert. Now, deserts are found literally next to the savanna and between the temperate forest. Now, the desert that we're going to study today is actually found in northern Africa and it's called the Sahara Desert. Now, I know lots of you will have heard of this because the Sahara is the biggest desert in the world, well, the biggest hot desert in the world. Actually, Antarctica is the biggest cold desert in the world, but Sahara is the biggest hot one. It spans all the way across northern Africa. So it comes from here in the Red Sea and then it travels all the way across to the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the Sahara Desert is the hottest place recorded on Earth. And it regularly has temperatures that exceed 40 degrees. Now at the moment in the UK, we've got temperatures around 20 degrees. So on a normal day in the Sahara, it is twice as hot as it is here. But what's really interesting is that the sand, which makes up the floor of the Sahara Desert, that can reach temperatures of up to 80 degrees. We couldn't stand on that. So we're going to have a look at a species today that has a special adaptation that means that it can stand on 80-degree heat sand. We couldn't. We would melt the bottom of our feet. It is too hot for us as human beings. So what I want you to do is on your piece of paper, I would like you at the top to write the word desert. Now, desert is not to be confused with dessert, which is a spelling mistake that I have previously made, quite publicly, in fact, when I was being examined by an Ofsted inspector, which your parents will know is probably quite a big mistake to make. So at the top of our sheet, we're going to write desert. So it's spelled D-E, and then this is where the confusion always comes in, one S E, R, ooh, and then T. So desert has one S, like this. Desert has two S's. Now, I told you at the start of the session today that your yellow pencil was going to be really important, and it is, because deserts are usually full of sand. So deserts have sand all over them. And what we're going to draw first of all on our piece of paper is two sand dunes. So they're basically like hills that are made out of sand. So I'm going to draw it on my piece of paper like this. So you can see what they look like, okay? So I've got two big yellow sand dunes. And what I would like you to do is just to shade those in with your yellow pencil, just to indicate that they are made of sand. Now, I'm not doing particularly good colouring in here, guys. Yours will probably look much neater. So say, always just pause the video if you need some time. So now I've got my two yellow sand dunes. Now, I think it's really important that we add the key fact that I told you about the temperature that the sand can actually reach. So, the sand in the desert can reach, can anyone remember what it was? 80 degrees Celsius. So I've added my label there. The sand in the desert can reach 80 degrees Celsius. It is pretty hot. Now, what we're going to do today is we're not going to study an ecosystem. We're actually going to study two different species that are amazing because they have adapted to living in that heat and that high temperature. Now, the other thing that's important to know before we start is that deserts do not get a lot of rainfall. And when I say they don't get a lot of rainfall, we're talking down to something like 20 millimetres a year. So we're talking about this much rainfall over the course of a year. So we know that plants need lots of rainfall and lots of sunlight to be able to grow. So in the desert, they've got lots of sunlight, but they don't have the rainfall that they necessarily need. So we're going to study an amazing plant that has adapted to living in these conditions. Right, I'm going to give you a moment just to finish off your sand dunes, add your label, and we'll be back. Okay guys, welcome back. So this week I've brought props to our lesson because I actually happen to have a desert plant that I grow in my conservatory. Now my conservatory is really, really, really hot, and so that's why it makes it the perfect place for this plant to grow. Now I know some of you will probably have these at home because they're really easy to keep alive. So guys, meet my cactus. Or, because there are multiple cactuses in here, we actually call them cacti. Now, cacti are not the most beautiful plants. I'm going to keep them right in the front here, but they are amazing. Now, the reason that they're amazing is because cactuses or cacti have grown in a way that means that they can survive with very, very little rainfall. So the first adaptation that these plants have is they have incredibly shallow roots. So their roots are literally just below the surface of the sand. And the reason they have that is because then when it does rain, which it does very, very rarely, they are able to suck up all the rainwater before it evaporates. Now, evaporates is something that you might have covered in science or you might have not yet, but we can run an experiment on this today. So what I want you to do at some point today is just to put a tiny pool of water, so like a little bit of water, on a paving slab in your garden or somewhere that gets loads and loads of heat. And I want you to keep going back and visiting your little pool of water over the course of the day. And what you'll find is it disappears. Now, the reason it does that is because the heat heats up the water, and those water molecules turn from a liquid into a gas. They basically evaporate into the atmosphere. So our cactus, living in those really hot temperatures in the desert, they have those shallow roots because when it does rain, they suck up as much water as they can because they need to hold on to it for as long as possible so that they can actually photosynthesize. Now, the other thing that you'll notice about my cactus is that it doesn't have any leaves. Now, it doesn't have any leaves because if it did, the water that was inside the cactus would evaporate really quickly into the atmosphere because of the heat, and it would mean that the cactus didn't have anything to drink. It wouldn't be able to photosynthesize. So they have developed these kind of really thick bodies instead. And I don't know if you can notice, I'm going to be quite careful when I touch this. It's got quite a thick, waxy skin. They're very hard. If I had a normal leaf, I could just break it in half. Whereas actually to break a cactus would be really difficult. Now, the reason that is because they've developed this waxy skin, and that waxy skin traps all of the moisture inside the cactus and stops it being evaporated. Now, the last adaptation is the one that cactuses are kind of most famous for, and you can see just by looking at mine, they are covered in these little spikes. Now, these little spikes protect them from herbivores. So they protect them from species that only eat plants, because as you can imagine, in the desert, there are not many plants that are able to grow there, and these guys don't want to get eaten because otherwise they wouldn't survive. So they've developed like their own sort of defense mechanism. It's a bit like having mini swords all over them, and that protects them from being eaten by the herbivores. So what we're going to do is grab our piece of paper, and I'm going to use my cactus to weigh down my piece of paper. We are going to draw a cactus on our piece of paper. Now, I'm going to draw what I think a cactus looks like, and I'm going to show you a picture of one in just a second. But they're big, they've got spikes all over them, they are green, but remember, they don't have any leaves. So have a look at our picture of a cactus now, and off you go. Okay, so you've had a look at your cactus. Now I would like you to draw one. Now remember, it's got to have the thick waxy skin, it's got to have the little spikes all over it, and do not forget those shallow roots, because they are the 3 key adaptations to a cactus. Right, I'm going to pause the video to give you time to draw that, and then we'll label it up when you come back. So here is mine, my beautiful cactus. Now, we're going to add those 3 really important labels. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the roots. So remember, they have a shallow root system to absorb rainwater quickly, because otherwise that water would be evaporated and they wouldn't be able to use it to photosynthesize. Okay, so the second adaptation that we had a look at was the thick, waxy skin. And we're going to add our word that I keep saying here. So thick, waxy skin to stop water evaporating. Now, evaporation, as I say, is a really important concept, and I'm hoping that over the course of the day you go and put your water down and wait for it to disappear, although it might rain. Do it on a day when it's really hot, okay? So if you're doing this on a day when it's raining, it may not work. Do it on one of the days when it's really hot. And then the last adaptation that we've got then is those, what did I call them? Oh, the spines, okay? To stop the cactus being eaten. And again, I use quite a geographical word, and I said by herbivores. Now, a herbivore is a consumer that only eats plants. So let's have a look at my labels there. You can see that I've pointed the arrow at each of the things that I am talking about. Add your labels, and they are your cactus adaptations. Okay, so I've just put a little label at the top, cactus adaptations. Okay, brilliant. When you've done that, we'll come back, we'll learn about our amazing species that can actually walk on 80-degree hot sand, which is just crazy. So, the species that we're going to have a look at today is actually really cool and really small. So, the species that we're going to have a look at is called the FENNEC fox. Now, you lot will all know what foxes look like in the UK, but I want you to have a look at the picture I'm about to show you to see exactly how this fox is different to those in the UK. I want you to look really closely at the size of some of its features, the colour of its hair, and have a good look at its feet, okay? Okay, so it's amazing, isn't it? So the fennec fox is, first of all, tiny. So the fennec fox is literally the length of a 30-centimetre ruler, and they are no more than 20 centimetres in height. So they're actually really, really small in comparison to foxes that we have in the UK. Now, the second thing that I imagine you noticed is they have got massive ears. Now, their ears can grow up to 15 centimetres. So they're only 20 centimetres in height in total, but then if you add their ears on top, they become 35 centimetres tall because they've got these huge ears. Now, their ears serve two purposes. They are adapted to that really hot condition in the Sahara Desert, in the desert, and that's in two ways. So the first thing is, if you look really, really closely and you zoom in on their ears, you might be able to see that you can see the little blood vessels. So they're tiny, tiny little blood vessels running through their ear. Now, the reason they have those is to actually allow heat to escape from their body. So if they were in the desert and they didn't have that, they would overheat. And what they do is the blood passes through their ears, and because their blood vessels are so close to their skin and there's so many of them in those big ears, the heat passes out into the environment, which stops them overheating. So that's reason one why they're cool. The second reason why they have those massive ears is that actually most of the things that the fennec fox eats live underground, underneath the sand. So the fennec fox, and if you ever see a video of them, which actually I'm going to put into the additional videos on YouTube, they sort of tilt their head and look around. And what they're doing is they are listening really, really hard to the movement of insects underneath the sand. And what they do then is when they hear something, they can go and dig it up and then they can eat it. So the other adaptation that fennec foxes have is they're not the same colour as the foxes we have in the UK. They are a sort of yellow, sandy colour. And the reason that they're that colour is so that they can blend in against the background of the sand dunes, and that means that they are less likely to be eaten by their prey. So fennec foxes are super cool. Now, the last adaptation, which is the one that I think is the coolest, is if you touch the palms of your hands or the soles of your feet, they are the two places on your body where you will not find any hair. There is no hair on our hands or on our feet. Now, a fennec fox is really different. They have got thick fur that lines the bottom of their paws. And the reason they do that is because then it means they can walk on that really, really 80-degree hot sand. So they are our amazing adaptations that our fennec fox has. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to pause the video and give you guys a chance to draw your fennec fox, and then we will add on our 3 adaptations to our drawing. Okay. I'll be back in a sec. So once again, I'm probably not going to win any awards for art, but here is my fennec fox. Right, we're going to add with our pencil then, which I appear to have lost. Here it is. We're going to add on our 3 labels that show our adaptations. Now remember, 2 of them relate to their ears. So the first adaptation is they have big ears to lose body heat in the hot desert. Okay, that's number 1. The second adaptation was also about their ears, but this was they have big ears to hear their prey under the sand. And then the last one, the bit that I love the most, is that they have furry soles of their feet to stop them burning on the hot sand. Okay, so I've added my 3 labels there. I'll just leave that out for a second. If you need to pause it, you can. And that is and we'll add our label, our FENNEC fox adaptations. Okay, so I'm going to put a box around that. There you go, I've put my FENNEC fox adaptations. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our session. So we have had a look at deserts, we've had a look at the extremely high temperatures that are experienced in the desert, we've had a look at how the cactus adapts to its environment, so those 3 different adaptations that mean it can survive with very little rainfall, and we've had a look at our fennec fox and how he is adapted to living in that climate. Right, I hope you've enjoyed the session. We'll be back next week. Next week is International Oceans Week. So we are going to do a session on the ocean, which is one of my favourite things to talk about because I absolutely love scuba diving. And if I am not in England, that is where you will find me, somewhere scuba diving. So we're going to talk about that next week. I hope you all have a really nice week. Enjoy the sun. For those of you that have gone back to school and are still doing Geography Classroom, top respect to you. I will see you soon. Bye.